I selected him as the recipient of the chocolate cake because I knew he favoured it. You always choose chocolate cake, don't you? Mum warned, concerned about the caffeine content. Ignoring her advice, I swiftly exchanged my cake with Kevin's. Well, after a brief hesitation, I took a bite of the caffeine-laden treat while my mom continued to enjoy her own cake. And Kevin, proudly boasting about reserving this cake a month, in advance emphasised the delicious crushed nuts on top. Suddenly, his demeanour shifted as he began to choke. His face turned red and he struggled to breathe. Foam formed at his mouth and he shivered before collapsing to the floor. My name is Emma, a 36-year-old working at a food inspection company. I live with my husband, Kevin, who is 2 years older, and our 7-year-old daughter, Catherine. Our journey began at university, leading to marriage and the birth of Catherine. However, her slow development worried us. Despite consulting numerous doctors, no issues were found. Catherine's lack of progress caused a rift between Kevin and her. His mother, Kay, also deemed Catherine as having a disability, leading to her disapproval and avoidance. Only my father-in-law showed affection, considering Catherine unique and lovely. Before marriage, Kevin was kind, but his attitude changed with Catherine's challenges. His frequent bouts of anger, expressed through loud noises and table banging, stressed me to the point of health issues. Menstrual irregularities, eventually leading to menopause, prevented us from having more children. As Catherine entered school, her slow speech led to suggestions of a special needs class, an idea Kevin vehemently opposed. Despite my belief that it would be a better fit for her, I couldn't propose it due to Kevin and Kay's objections. Work offered solace from the home environment. When offered a full-time position, Kevin hesitated, insisting on my continued commitment to housework. Reluctantly, I agreed. However, Kevin's solution was to have his critical mother, Kay, take over household duties. After my father-in-law's sudden death, Kevin and Kay's behaviour at the funeral raised suspicions. Despite Catherine losing her only ally, Kevin spent more time at his parents' house. When I fell ill and asked for help, he refused, opting to stay away for a week. As my health improved, I received a job promotion, bringing both joy and the weight of added responsibilities in the midst of my challenging home life. I discussed the situation with Kevin, and as anticipated, he insisted that I should manage the household chores properly. To add insult to injury, he gave me a mocking look and questioned whether I could handle the title of a section chief, claiming it was equivalent to his position. Kevin abruptly left the table and headed to the bedroom. The next day, Kay visited our house and Kevin pointed out the supposed mess, attributing it to my lack of effort in housework. Kay hastily entered, meticulously inspecting everything from the cleanliness of the windows to the folding of the laundry and water stains in the bathroom. She made me redo everything, and Caffeine started engaging in conversation with Kay. Caffeine approached Kay with a serious expression, asking her about the 4 main elements of happiness and inquiring about happy hormones. Surprised by Catherine's rapid-fire questions, Kay appeared bewildered. Catherine continued her passionate explanation about neurotransmitters, leaving Kay increasingly perplexed. Eventually, overwhelmed by Catherine's focus, a worn-out Kay went home. On my birthday, Kevin, returning from a business trip, surprised me by buying a birthday cake. A first since our marriage, this unexpected act puzzled me, as Kevin had never bought anything for Catherine or me before. During dinner, he showered me with overly sweet words, apologising for leaving household chores to me and promising to help more. Well, Kevin's words made me uncomfortable. I didn't want to spoil the moment. After dinner, as I cleared the dishes, Kevin retrieved the cake from the fridge, insisting he would handle it. Although uneasy about his behaviour, I decided to call Catherine to join us. In Catherine's room, she warned me not to eat the cake, expressing urgency in her gaze. Trusting Catherine, I returned to the living room, where she insisted we eat without forks. I realised she had swapped my cake with Kevin's. As we ate, Kevin proudly discussed reserving the cake, and suddenly he began to choke. Kevin collapsed on the floor, showing signs of anaphylactic shock from a buckwheat allergy. Both Kevin and I were allergic to buckwheat, and it was confusing since we were eating cake that shouldn't contain any buckwheat. In a calm voice, Catherine instructed me to call an ambulance. Following her guidance, I hit Kevin's back to help him expel the cake. At the hospital, Kevin's life was saved, and I wondered how Catherine knew something life-threatening would happen. After completing the hospital admission procedures, I returned home. As soon as I arrived, Catherine showed me a candy wrapper she retrieved from the trash. It was a wrapper for cookies made with buckwheat flour, and Corrine explained that it was from the cake box Dad had bought. According to Seren, the seal on the box was half peeled off. And when she checked the kitchen trash, she found a kini wrapper she'd never seen before. Upon researching online, she discovered it contained buckwheat flour. She then reminded me of Catherine's warning mom. If you eat that, you'll die. The realization hit me hard. If not for Caffeine's swift action, I could have been the one eating that potentially harmful cake. The thought of being the one on the hospital bed sent chills down my spine. As fear and suspicion crept in, I considered involving the police. However, Caffeine's words made me reconsider. If Dad was the one who collapsed, informing the police might make me a prime suspect. A feeling of despair overcame me, and Caffeine assured me that she would handle it. She ventured into Kevin's study, defying his strict instructions, and began searching for evidence. To my surprise, Caffeine found a notebook in a drawer that detailed a shocking revelation. My father-in-law had been victimized in a similar manner. The notebook described the plan to mix crushed buckwheat flour cookies with sprinkles. Even more disturbingly, Kai was implicated in this terrifying scheme. They were conspiring together, and at the bottom of the page, it ominously read, "Next is Emma's birthday." My hands involuntarily tightened around the notebook, and Caffeine, noticing my anger, reassured me that everything would be okay. Catherine shook her head regretfully, explaining that the notebook might not be admissible as evidence. If Kevin and Kay claimed it was just fantasy, the case would likely be dismissed. The lack of concrete evidence made me feel helpless, and Caffeine, sensing my frustration, held my hand firmly, promising to find the evidence and protect me. Determined to seek justice, Catherine and I began preparing for the final showdown. Our plan was to lure Kay into our house under the pretense of learning how to cook Kevin's favourite dish. While Kay taught me in the kitchen, Caffeine discreetly searched her bag and found the buckwheat cookies. With one cookie in hand, we took it to my workplace for a composition test. Several days later, as Kevin was discharged from the hospital, I informed Kay that I was preparing a celebration for his recovery. I asked her to pick him up, and while waiting, Catherine and I prepared his favourite dishes, including the potentially tainted cookie. As Kevin and Kay returned, we welcomed them to the table, where the atmosphere quickly shifted. Kevin whispered something to Kay, and they both seemed puzzled. It appeared that our plan was beginning to unfold, and I steeled myself for the confrontation ahead. As she released the fried chicken she held with her chopsticks, she seemed oblivious to the fact that it slipped from her grasp. The tension in the room intensified as Kevin and Kay refrained from touching the food. Deliberately, I engaged Kevin in conversation, inquiring about the seasoning. "Oh, I guess I can't make it as good as your mother does," he mumbled, glancing down. I responded with my biggest smile, assuring him that the seasoning not only tasted good but also seemed to provide energy. Casually, I mentioned my father-in-law's recommendation of the seasoning, observing Kevin and Kay shivering as if they were cold. Catherine, undeterred, sprinkled the seasoning over their rice. In protest, Kevin swatted away Catherine's hand, expressing concern about adding something suspicious. Ignoring his objections, I continued smiling and serving the food. Catherine persisted, reaching for the seasoning, but Kevin, with a terrifying expression, shouted, "Enough! Why are you so scared?" "I just want you and your mum to live longer," I cheerfully retorted, flashing my brightest smile. The atmosphere grew tense as Catherine defied Kevin's warning and sprinkled the seasoning over their rice. The room was charged with Kevin's anger as he shouted, "Stop putting something so suspicious into it." Unfazed, I continued with my smile, drawing attention to his past actions of sprinkling the same seasoning on my cake, leading to his hospitalisation. With a triumphant gesture, I presented documents obtained from our company's inspector, linking the substance on the cake to the buckwheat cookies. Kevin and Kay exchanged glances, denying any knowledge of the situation. However, I placed a copy of Kevin's incriminating notebook on the table, revealing details of the ordered cookies and their sinister plan. Red and then blue in the face, Kevin and Kay struggled to explain away the evidence. Kevin's notebook held damning information, including details of their plot and attempts to mask the crime. Staring sternly at Kay, I connected the dots, questioning them about their involvement in my father-in-law's death. Kevin finally admitted to his vengeful act, revealing his resentment towards my father-in-law's interference. Shocked and angry, I listened as he confessed to mixing the buckwheat cookies into the seasoning, targeting my father-in-law due to his disapproval of Kevin's relationship with his mother. Fueled by anger and disbelief, I declared their actions as a crime and threatened to report them to the police. In a desperate attempt to conceal evidence, Kevin snatched the copy of the notebook from the table, crumpled it, and possibly swallowed it. Catherine caffeine, and I stared in surprise at his desperate act. Caffeine calmly revealed that it was just a copy, and the original was safely stored elsewhere. She placed a voice recorder on the table, exposing their crimes from the beginning. As the evidence mounted against them, Kevin collapsed into his chair, realizing the gravity of their actions. With the truth exposed, the police took Kevin and Kay away. Their cries and protests echoed, but the evidence, including copies of the notebook, voice recordings, and purchase history, secured a guilty verdict. The legal proceedings led to my successful divorce from Kevin, who had to pay compensation, along with Kay receiving $660 as compensation. I used a portion to build a grave for my father-in-law, a proper place for mourning. After the trial, Catherine and I reported the incident in front of my father-in-law's grave, seeking closure and justice. Later, Catherine shared an IQ test result, revealing her score of 135. Surprised and impressed, I learned about her enrollment in a school for gifted children, where she flourished in an environment that allowed her to study what she loved. Our life together became enriching, filled with happiness and improved well-being. Despite the challenges, living with Catherine proved enjoyable, and our smiles never faded.